Hi friends, I'm August. This is Cozy Rosy Reads, and this is a chatty catch-up in terms of what I've been reading. I have not done a wrap-up since March, where I did a collective like what I read in January, February, March. So I have April, May, and June to talk to you all about. It's actually not that big of a stack. Reading has not been a super big priority for me. Big shock if you've been here for a while. The past few months have been really hard in terms of finding a lot of joy in reading, getting through books quickly. Like the pace is just not there, but also in retrospect, looking at these books, specifically April through June was just like not great reading months. Like these books are not incredibly memorable for me, but I want to talk about them regardless, just to chat and to talk about them and to get them off my chest, and then I can see if I want to donate my copies, if I want to hang on to them, all of that fun stuff. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well. Thankfully though, June was the month that I got back into audiobooks, so I have more books to talk about rather than just the ones physically in front of us right now. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I'm really behind in my Goodreads challenge. The books that I've been reading, like I'm still trying to find, and I know what kind of genre I like, but then I pick up a book thinking like, oh, I'm gonna enjoy this. This is gonna be, I have really high expectations for these reads, and then they just like really fall flat for me, and I don't feel super emotionally connected to characters or plot or story. But anyway, I'm hoping that this month, July and August, we can get some like juicy, good summer reads. A new all-time favorite would be fantastic. That would be nice. Let's talk about the books that I've read in spring and early summer. All right, let's just get into it. So the first book that I read in April was Crisis Girls by Hiroaki Yoshikawa. It's story and art. Little graphic novel. So cute. I should say too, a lot of these books, the physical ones, I have vlogs about, so I still vlog and I talk way more in depth about my reading experience and how I'm enjoying a book as it goes along, and like why certain books, like they might start out strong, turn into like, ooh, you know? I have a whole playlist dedicated to my vlogs if you want to hear more in-depth stuff. But anyway, I read this on my birthday. It was so sweet and cute. It's adorable. This follows a little girl named Katie, and she is a necromancer, so she can raise people from the dead, specifically just like zombies. They just come back as the living dead. She is part of this Crisis Girls project it's supposed to be Tokyo, but it's called something else. I can't remember. It's called like Doom City or something like that, or Crisis City. Instead of her using her powers for evil, they put her into this program where she's looked over by a mentor and is taught how to like make important decision-making skills, such as like who to save in a crisis. And her priorities are all over the place. Like she would rather save food and cupcakes rather than humans. So it's just her trying to understand humanity and how to save people. And it's just really cute. Some of the villains in here are just so awesome. Like they're giant penguins that want to turn humanity into livestock. Like it's just very existential, and there's like a little chihuahua who's a villain. And at the very end of this book, she meets another crisis girl. This is only a duology, so I would love to get my hands on the second copy. I enjoyed it. It was just so fun and light and fluffy and just super adorable. So I really enjoyed this read. Definitely not like an all-time favorite manga or graphic novel series, like, but I really enjoyed it and I would totally read the next one. So that's the first book I read in April. Prior to that though, I had started reading The Idiot by Elif Batuman, and I didn't finish it until after Crisis Girls, obviously. This took me forever to read. Forever. Yes, there were laugh out lines in here. Like there were sentences that made me audibly chuckle, and I did annotate a little bit, like just the parts that kind of made an impact on me. We're following this girl named Celine, and she's living in 1995. It's her first year at Harvard. And it's just following her life, her inner thoughts. Email's a brand new thing, so she starts up a relationship with a guy in one of her classes who's a little bit older than her via email. And they're like navigating this very strange relationship of like seeing each other in person, not knowing how to act, but then online via email, it's just like chemistry, sparks are flying. But this feels like almost like vignettes of the parties she goes to, experiencing adulthood, her roommates, her family. And it started out so promising. When I started reading this, I really felt like this could be a 5-star read. But as this book went on, it just felt so meandering to me, to a point where like, yeah, I'm okay with there not being like any plot at all, but I didn't get enough. I felt no emotion. Our protagonist Celine is so dry and sarcastic and witty, and I really, really enjoyed her personality and her character. But the meanderingness of this and how long it was, the last, I would say maybe 200 pages, close to 200 pages, I was so bored. I didn't want to keep reading it. I was just not feeling anything. Like there was no emotion in me whatsoever, and that doesn't work for me as a reader. Like I need something to bite on. I need something to chew. I need something to think about, and I need somebody to root for. And I just like did not care. You know, they say that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And I felt so indifferent about this book, and it really made me angry because 1, huge fan of the cover, 2, I've heard absolutely wonderful things about it, and 3, the sequel just came out. I'm not going to be reading it. I don't care. It had no impact on me other than like when I see this cover and this delicious pink and this beautiful spine, I might keep it for a little bit just to look nice on my shelves. That's it. Because it's just pretty. So this one just turned into like a really big bummer. For me, this is just like run-of-the-mill, 3 stars. I have not thought about it once since finishing it. I really, really thought that this was something I could really just like sink my teeth into and love and fall in love with the world, because I do love the Harvard campus, daughter of an immigrant, just super dry, really funny. There was a lot of stuff in here where we're just like learning with Celine in terms of like the classes she's taking, and I really loved that. I love that academic atmosphere and learning about all these different art classes and history and linguistics. Like I really enjoyed that, and then it just took this turn, and I don't know exactly what it was. I think maybe it was when she like traveled to Hungary, and I don't know, like there was just not a whole lot for me to grasp or to care about. So this was 3 stars. I'm gonna hang on to it for now. If you're new here, once I finish a book and I do a wrap up, I decide if I'm gonna donate my copy or not. I'm gonna hang on to this one for a little bit. I am gonna be keeping Crisis Girls because it's adorable and sweet. If I get my hands on the second one, then I can like loan out the whole duology. But this one I'm gonna keep for a little bit just because it's pretty and it's thick, and I just love floppy paperbacks with my whole heart. And then reassess in maybe like a few months or something. So yeah, that's The Idiots. It was just kind of a disappointment, and I'm really sad about that. Okay, next in April, I read Almost, which is a short story collection by Maryanne Dagencourt. I love this cover, love this spine, love this back. Beautiful. Too bad that's the only redeeming quality of this short story collection. I remember nothing. There was one, I think it's the first story in here, called Autumn Whirl. So I guess it's the second story. That's the only one that I actually kind of do think about a little bit frequently. Like just the atmosphere and the feeling. It's just describing this young girl looking outside her window and seeing her mother kissing her art teacher, like the daughter's art teacher, out in the backyard, and fall leaves are falling and the air is crisp. So it's a lot of description of like the ambience and the environment and the atmosphere, which I love. And then just like this quick blip of like something you're not supposed to see, but then not knowing how to look away. That was the only story in here that really made me think, and for some reason it just like randomly pops into my head very frequently. I don't know why, but everything else I don't remember a thing. I don't remember a single story. It's very short, and the cover is just stunning. Again, that magenta on the back, oh, those complementary colors are just like, I don't know, why do I keep wanting to bite books? I don't know what I'm gonna do with this one yet, just because I think it is so pretty, but I'm never gonna think about it again. I'm never gonna pick it up again. It might just go into a little free library, which I'm still collecting books for, and I'm gonna hopefully do a big little free library donate thing very soon. I wanted to wait until after filming this video so I could unhaul more books, so that's that. Unfortunately, those were the only 3 books that I read in the month of April, but as you can see, they are just so aesthetically pleasing. They didn't make me feel anything really. So pretty. I have such a hard time letting go of very aesthetic things, but like, yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of a bummer reading month, just because The Idiot took me so long to get through, so long. But yeah, overall, this whole month, April, in terms of reading, was like a good 2.5 star. It was just like so underwhelming. Definitely think Almost is around like a 2.5 star for me. It just like did not wow me. I feel like it almost took itself too seriously. Like it was like trying to elicit some feeling from me, but it was not working, and because of that, it's just not memorable, and that's really sad because I've read some stellar short story collections and I would love to read more, and I really thought this would be a winner, but it sadly was not. So those are the 3 books that I read in April. Okay, on to May, my friends. The first book that I read in May was Light by M. John Harrison. This is the first of I think it's a trilogy of the Kafahuchi Tract series. I adored this. I have a reading vlog about it. I freaking adored this book. This is definitely my favorite book that I've read in the past 2 months. So this is a 5 star. I loved this book. I started out reading it not knowing what the hell was happening. You're just thrown right in the middle of 3 different storylines, and they all take place in different years, almost like centuries. One is in the 1990s following this murderer named Michael, and then there's a story about a person who is no longer in a human body and she's inside of a starship. Like her consciousness is a starship. And then the third timeline is this drifter who used to be really into space and adventuring and now has fallen into like virtual reality basically. And how these stories merge, it just gets eerie and creepy, and it's a very slow unraveling until the very end, and things are coming together, and it's this huge epic climax. But it's a lot about metaphysics and virtual reality, science and particles and wormholes and black holes and parallel universes, and asking really big questions like if everything that was ever known or ever spoken in the universe was information that could then be visibly seen, what would it look like? It's so interesting, so fascinating. It asked a lot of big questions that made my mind race. I absolutely loved it. So each chapter is like taking turns. You go through one story loop. So you're following all 3 of these timelines as they progress, and it's just so well done. I really loved it. I don't want to read the rest of the series though. I really don't. I loved this one so much. It's the first of the series. I enjoyed this book so much. It's the first. I don't need to read anymore. It feels like it just perfectly wrapped up. I don't want any more information. I don't need anything else. I will not be reading it. I've made up my mind. I don't want to read anything else in this series. Where it left it felt amazing to me. It felt wrapped up. It felt perfectly like elusive and vague and terrifying, but that's what made my brain go, what? So this was a 5 star read. I loved it. Science fiction, but dark. It's not super adventure-y. It's not over the top. It's very dark. It's written like literary fiction. It has these beautiful, dark, creepy, eerie elements that I just absolutely love. There are just some wonderful, memorable characters in this that I still think about. 5 stars. I loved this. That's Light. Finally, a good book. Changing gears pretty much entirely. Next I read The Hard Way by Julie Luongo. And in that vlog where I read this, I was talking about how if you are a fan of The Idiot, I think you would enjoy this as well. I enjoyed this so much more than The Idiot. This follows like an early 20-year-old girl named Lucy as she goes through her life, and every chapter is like a different time in her life, navigating relationships, navigating career. Again, just like a very wayward, aimless woman trying to navigate the world and understand her place in it. This is like, again, really dry, funny. She's a very extroverted character, so she goes to a lot of parties and social events, but it's navigating her relationships with both men, also with her family, her mother, her sister. Each chapter is just like a very close microscopic look at these relationships or a time in her life or a very specific thing happening to her and how all these moments make up and then define her life going forward. I will say this was not a full 5-star book. I really wanted it to be because it was wowing me. This was the first book this year I feel like I just flew through naturally. I just wanted to keep reading it and it didn't feel like a chore to pick it up, but the very end just felt kind of like a cop-out. It felt way too bubblegum sweet, way too wrapped up in a perfect little bow. It was just too on the nose, and I don't like that. I'm very picky when it comes to endings. I need it to like linger with me and be emotional without it being campy, you know? I don't want camp, or kitsch, like I don't want anything sappy. I want something hard-hitting and emotional. So overall this was 4 stars, but I enjoyed it so much. I annotated a lot. It was just funny, again, laugh out loud funny. I really loved this character. She just felt very relatable, you know? She didn't have like a super strong, intense personality. It just felt like a person who really is just trying to find their way and is amicable towards other people, doesn't cause a lot of drama, but is just internally really trying to figure herself out. So this was a 4-star read. I loved it. This is a really good like summer beach read too, I would say. If you just heard my stomach growl, no you did not. Anyway, that is The Hard Way. Okay, the last book that I read in May was The Diver's Clothes Lie Empty by Vendela Vida. This is a super interesting book. I found it on Libby and read it on my Kindle, and it was under the thriller category, but it looked like a literary fiction thriller, and that it was. This follows an unnamed female protagonist, and it is all written in second person. You board the plane, you get off the plane, you find your luggage, you check into your hotel room. Someone steals your luggage, you alert the authorities. The authorities then let you know that they found someone's backpack and it is yours. You open up the backpack. It is not your backpack and it has another woman's passport in it. You still say it's yours because you know the cops know it's not yours, but you're in a foreign country and you don't want any trouble. So you then take up somebody else's identity like that. The writing style made this feel so anxiety inducing. I actually felt like my heart rate was going up when reading this book. It was so intense. I felt so uncomfortable. Any moment it felt like this woman, this unnamed narrator, would be found out and would get in so much trouble, and then she just keeps digging holes for herself. Like, this could have just been it. This could have just been the plot, and navigating this foreign country and trying to, you know, skirt under the radar and not be found out by authorities that she's using someone else's passport. But no, it gets weirder. She ends up working on a movie. She's on the movie set. She befriends a super famous American actress whose name is also not given, but is just called Super Famous American Actress. It was so well written, and I really enjoyed that. It was so anxiety inducing. The pace and the cadence of it, it just made me feel so anxious reading it. And as the book progresses, you do find more and more out about our narrator's backstory and what led her to this country and the problem she's fleeing. But the more information we were given, the less I cared. I liked having it be super ambiguous. I loved that it was written in second person. And by the end, it just left me with nothing. So basically, I really enjoyed the writing style at the beginning. The more we found out, it's like a horror movie, you know, when it's the fear of not knowing that keeps you on the edge of your seat. And then as soon as we find out more, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, like you are just like a normal person, and I can't just push any identity onto you anymore, and I can't just fill in the blanks myself. And so it loses that novelty, it loses that like thriller element for me. So overall, this was just like a 3-star book by the end. But I really enjoyed the writing style at the beginning and the promise it had. I think it had so many opportunities to be a little bit stronger and to be more ambiguous, more elusive, because that's how it started, and I really loved that energy. So yeah, overall 3 stars. Okay, friends, now we're getting into June. So once again, in May, I only read 3 books. So overall, we had a 5-star read, we had a 4-star read, we had like a 3-star read. In June, I read Her Daughter's Mother by Daniela Petrova. This is a thriller. I was really feeling thriller vibes. There's something about the summertime. I just really love thrillers, more action, more adventure, more plot-heavy books. And I picked this one up on a whim and was like, yeah, why not? Let's read this. This follows a woman named Lana. Her and her partner have been in a relationship for a long time, and they've been actively trying to get pregnant, and it's just not working. No pregnancy is sticking. She's been going through it. So there's a lot of talk about IVF treatments, all of these fertility treatments. They decide to do an egg transfer. So she gets an egg donor transferred into her body, and then she finds the woman who donated the egg on the subway, and she recognizes her because of her picture. And Lana then starts to kind of stalk her and befriend her. The donor's name is Katya, and Katya is a super reckless, over-the-top, party-going, drama-causing woman. And this book just bounces perspectives between Lana and Katya, and then Lana's partner, can't remember his name, throughout this like time period, a little bit before the pregnancy, a little bit after the pregnancy, and then what happens is Katya goes missing shortly after Lana befriends her. So it's this like, there are a lot of things happening, there's a lot going on. I found this a page turner. I did. I wanted to keep reading. At the end of each chapter, it felt like a little cliffhanger, and it kept me engaged and reading pretty quickly, I would say. Like when I sat down to read, I just like couldn't really stop. So for that, I appreciate it. And there were a few twists in here that I did find super interesting, very psychological thriller-y, but our main character, Lana, was super boring. Her partner was super boring. There was nothing to really like grab onto or care about. It was just very like mopey energy, just like, oh, woe is me, jumping to conclusions, lack of communication. You know, it wasn't very enjoyable to read in that sense, these characters, but Katya herself was a super interesting character. And in the vlog where I read this, I talked way more in depth about my psychoanalysis of Katya as a character. The end was laughable because it jumped to like 8 months later, and it just felt like the end of like a cheesy Hallmark movie, and it was just so uncomfortable. So yeah, overall this was like a 2.75 read, not memorable at all. I'm gonna donate this copy. I mean, I guess this kind of got me out of a reading slump. For that, I'm grateful. It just like was a fun, easy read. It didn't require a lot of brain power or energy on my part. But yeah, just not memorable. It was a thriller, it was a mystery, it was whodunit, and I was curious. So yeah. Okay, next I read Aquamarine by Anshaw. Again, I have another vlog about this one, but this is a super interesting book in terms of how it's written. So this is a triptych. So it follows this woman named Jessie, and she was in the Olympics in the 1970s and placed second. So we open up with the book, small little chapter saying how she got second place. And then what follows for the remainder of the book are the 3 different life paths that could have happened after she placed second. So in one reality, she's living in New York City. She's in a relationship with a famous woman. In another reality, she's settled down and married to a man, living a very quiet, quaint country life, but is having an affair. And in the last one, she's divorced, she has children. In each life, there is this like lack of like passion for life. There is this lingering on the past, lingering on the fact that she got second place, dismissing her celebrity status as like an Olympic athlete, not really like believing in herself, questioning her reality. And then the last chapter is when things got interesting. So reading this wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy reading it. I think the setup, you know, as an idea, as an outline of like, here's a set event that happened in this woman's life. Here are 3 different ways that her life could have gone, the trajectory after this one set event that we know is going to happen. This cannot be altered. And then the ending to have like one other set altered thing that no matter what trajectory, it's going to end at this one point. So interesting. If you zoom out and look at that narrative, love it. The actual writing style, did not really enjoy it. I thought it was really boring. It just felt like dread, which is fine because the main character herself is, again, aimless, wayward. Like you can tell she's not fully satisfied with any of these lives, but the writing style itself like just wasn't super engaging. It wasn't interesting. I didn't find Jessie to be a super memorable character at all. It just wasn't that wonderful for me. So this is a maybe in terms of like, do I donate it or not? We shall see. I don't know how I feel about it. So yeah, overall, this is just like 3 stars. I definitely find myself thinking about just the outline of this book, what its form and outline is. It's just everything in there, the way it's colored, the way it's shaded. Not memorable. So yeah, that's Aquamarine. Okay, next book I read physically was Luster by Leilani. I have a vlog about this one as well. Sadly, this was another story of the writing style in this was impeccable. I loved the writing style. Leilani is so talented. I would definitely pick up another book of hers. This was her debut. I love the writing style. It was amazing. It was so detail oriented. This character, whose name I can't remember, Edie, had so many things to say in her brain, but just didn't say them out loud. And I thought she was a super interesting character in that sense. But the plot itself, interesting, yes. Wildly bizarre, yes. Did I care? No, I didn't care. Oh, and I hate saying that. Like, once this book wrapped up and it was done, I didn't think about it once. I did not really ever want to pick up this book. I didn't feel invested in this story. I didn't feel emotionally connected at all. I didn't really care where things ended up. You know, I didn't have that passion of like, oh my gosh, I hope these characters are okay, or I hope something really wild and tragic happens and we can learn more about these characters, or I hope we get to see to the end what's gonna happen. Like, I kind of just went into this. The writing style was the only thing that kept me intrigued and wanting to read more. So overall, this is like a 3.5 star. Writing style, amazing and phenomenal. The story itself, I did find interesting and very odd. Our protagonist, Edie, enters into a relationship with a man who is married, but he's in an open relationship. She then finds herself living at home with this man, his wife, and his adopted daughter. And so there are a lot of things to say about this book. It's a lot about social status, it's a lot about race, it's a lot about coming of age, especially in her early 20s. Again, a very wayward, aimless character. But overall, like, I just emotionally, I did not feel impacted. I didn't feel connected, and that's what makes juicy books for me. I want to feel like I'm questioning reality, I'm questioning motives, I can psychoanalyze certain characters. There was just so much given in this book that I enjoyed, and it was a very in-depth character, like the first in-depth character I have read in a very long time. It feels like fully fleshed, but yeah, it just didn't stick with me. So I think I'm gonna be donating this copy. I'm not gonna pick it up again, but I think someone else would absolutely love it. So I think it's a fantastic book. It just didn't work personally for me. So that is Luster. Okay, now on to 2 audiobooks I listened to in June. Heads up, I didn't like either of them. So if you don't want to hear me, like, again, just talk about books I didn't enjoy, you can skip a little bit. The first is A House at the Bottom of the Lake by Josh Malerman. No, this was not good. I don't even know what to say about this book. I hated it. I thought it was just horrible. I thought it was poorly written. I thought it was ridiculous and icky. This is supposed to be like a horror, it almost feels like a horror novella or something, and it follows this teenage boy who asks a girl out on a date, and they go canoeing on this lake, and they find a hidden passageway that leads to a third lake, and at the bottom of this lake is a house. So they get some scuba gear and they start exploring, and as they're exploring the house, they're exploring their sexuality, they're exploring their things, and just like, if you don't like descriptions of like underwater sexuality and the things that happen, especially listening to it as an audiobook, I was like, ew, this is, no one would act like this. And I think, again, it is just like male coming of age, and a male author writing this like teenage girl was just so uncomfortable. This like teenage experience, like it was, ugh. There was no horrifying aspect of this. It was so repetitive, and the ending was just so, it was like trying so hard to be something, but then it gave us nothing, but not in an artistic, ambiguous nothing. It was just like a what? I did not like this book. I thought it was trash. So yeah, that's my very harsh opinion. I gained nothing from this experience reading it. I was just laughing. As soon as I finished the book, I was laughing out loud. Do not recommend this book. And yeah, in my brain, it's like a 1 or a 2 star. So yeah, not memorable except for the laughs, which were not intentional. Okay, then I listened to The Streets Have No Queen by JaQuavis Coleman. This I found on Libby or Hoopla under thriller. It, again, seems like a thriller novella. It's pretty short. And the blurb was so misleading, friends. It was so misleading. It said an artist grieves the loss of his wife until one day a burglar comes in and they tie him up, hold him hostage, and start playing a game. So I immediately am thinking thriller, there's this artist, like, ooh, we're getting some worlds that I really love. like psychological thriller, some horror games, held captive in his house. He's an artist grieving the loss of his wife. Like, I love both of these. What we got instead was the smuttiest book I have ever read in my life, and the fact that it was an audiobook made me so uncomfortable. There should have been something in the description of this audiobook that it is so sex focused, like graphic sex. Like, every single character, basically we start with this protagonist who is the artist who's grieving the loss of his wife, and then we go into every character that like he interacts with or who works for him, or every character who is robbing him and is going to hold him hostage, and their backstory, and every person that they've had sex with, and describing the length of their genitals and the size of things and the feeling of things and how moist things are. It was the smuttiest book I have ever read. And I was so uncomfortable, and I was like, what is this? There were so many times that I wanted to just like stop listening, but I was like, okay, this audiobook is only 3 hours long. Like, maybe we'll actually get to this psychological thriller mind game when these people are holding this man hostage in his house. Maybe we'll actually get to that. And we did at the very, very, very end. And it was an interesting twist. There was a twist, but it came at, I swear, in like the last like 5 minutes of this book, and then it ended. It was just, the blurb was so misleading. I have never experienced a book like this, like going in thinking it was so one thing because that's what it's self-proclaimed as, and then getting something completely different. It was so much sex. It was so much smut. It was a lot of hypersexuality and hypersexualizing women, and it was just a lot. So for that, like going into it and being wholly shocked that this was what this book was. I don't even know, I've never read anything like this. So it's memorable, I guess, in that sense. Also, like, both of my elbows just cracked, so I apologize. It was just, I'm like, if it had just said that this was like smutty, sexy, relationship quote unquote focused, and very heterosexual as well. Like, it's all just heterosexual relationships and it's just very male dominating. I would have stayed away from it. So this was not for me. It was definitely like a 1 to 2 star read. I really wish, and it should say what this book really is in the plot description. So uncomfortable. So yeah, there's that. All right, and then the last book that I read in June was, of course, Killer Content by Kylie Roache. Still don't know how to pronounce that last name, I'm sorry. I do have a very in-depth vlog where I read this book, and I talk about it a lot at the end because it did make me think a lot about social media. This is a book that follows a TikTok house, so it's where a lot of like TikTok famous youngsters live all in one same place and create content together. And this follows the lit layer, and one day one of their TikTok makers is found dead in the pool, and everyone is investigated. Cryptic TikToks are being posted like from their account, so they think it is someone in the house who did the murder, and so every chapter is from a different person in this house's perspective. And I thought the characters were, while a little tropey, I was able to know who was who and understand and visualize them in my head, which I think if you are writing a book that has a lot of characters that we're reading from their perspective, it was a really good job in that sense. This is young adult, it's pretty dark, it's kind of graphic, but it was so fun. It was so fun. There were so many hokey bits in here that made me kind of laugh out loud, but overall it made me feel validated in the sense of like how I personally feel about social media and TikTok, which is a lot of cringe, very uncomfortable. I think it's really messing with our brains and is not really good for younger people to be using because it is just this influx and focus on status, celebrity status, on creating a character for yourself that isn't real, all like operating on completely different wavelengths than actual reality. It's very interesting. You become a brand when you become a celebrity on TikTok, basically. So it just gave me a lot to think about. I really did enjoy this. I had so much fun reading it. It was actually a good thriller. There were actually really good twists. Was the dialogue sometimes hokey? Yeah, but I could look past it, and I think the narrative and the story and the characters were pretty interesting. So it wasn't fully predictable, and for that, kudos. So for me, I think overall this is like a 4-star read. Like, I had fun reading it. It gave me something to think about. It gave me a lot to talk about in that vlog. It was just so fun to read. It's very summery. So I think for that reason, I'm gonna hang on to it for now, put it on my shelves, and then again, kind of like the idiot, just reassess how I feel about it in like a few months. Usually when I have a few months to distance myself, I can be like, yeah, I have not been thinking about that book, have not once thought about it or wanted to return to it or recommend it to somebody else. So that is the last book that I read in the past 3 months. So there we have it, friends. These are the books that I read this spring and early this summer. I cannot wait to read more and hopefully be wowed. You know, I want to be wowed. I want to pick up a book believing I'm going to enjoy it and actually enjoy it and be surprised and feel connected and feel emotional and feel like I want to rave to you all about a book. And that's why I really enjoy vlogs and vlogging. Even if I don't enjoy a book 100%, I have a lot to talk to you all about, you know, like during my process of reading, every 100 pages or so being like, well, this is how I'm feeling now. And I think it's just a way more in-depth experience rather than these sit-down videos. But in waiting a while to film this, it's definitely given me space and time to think about how am I actually feeling about all of these. I'm sorry it was like so negative, but it's like these just did not wow me. They did not surprise me. They didn't really make me feel a whole lot. The only two that really have stuck with me are Light and The Hard Way. Everything else has been very lackluster. Hopefully July and August will give us some really good reading treats. I would love that so much. But yeah, if you made it to the end of this, let's, what kind of emojis can we do out of this? Let's do some like emojis based on your favorite book of the past 3 months. Like, what was your favorite book of the past 3 months? And then make some emojis based on either the cover or the plot. Yeah. Tell a story with your emojis on like, yeah, the book that you've loved the most since April to now. I think that'd be so fun. Okay, hopefully a lot of you made it to the end because I really want to see your emojis. But anyway, thank you all so incredibly much for being here with me, friends. I appreciate you and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I can't wait to see you all again very soon for my next video. Stay cozy, my friends. Bye!